Hello and welcome. I am your host, Grant Johnson from Red News, and I'm here to talk about the news for today. For today's podcast recording, I'm going to be talking about how U.S. President Joe Biden had just turned 81 and also pardoned a turkey for Thanksgiving. On November 20th, U.S. President Joe Biden had turned 81, making him the oldest serving U.S. president in U.S. history. Also, President Biden had also pardoned a turkey as a part of presidential tradition. During the Thanksgiving season, President Biden had stood in front of the White House alongside with other government officials and spoke about the importance of Thanksgiving in the United States. After President Biden gave his speech about Thanksgiving, he had eventually gave his pardon to a turkey from the Midwestern state Minnesota. Now I'm going to be talking about how the age of President Joe Biden may hurt his re-election strategy in the next presidential election scheduled for next year. As I said before, U.S. President Joe Biden is the oldest living U.S. president currently serving in office. As President Biden gets older, he has received criticism from both Democrats and Republicans for his age, and he should probably retire and not continue to try to get reelected in the next presidential election. But earlier this year, in April, President Biden had confirmed that he will be seeking re-election in 2024. By the time everything is said and done, U.S. President Joe Biden would be 86 once he is no longer able to serve in office. It's important to say that in politics, age may not seem like it should matter really, but in actuality, it does matter a fair bit, because if you are considered to be too old, then potentially you may not be able to relate with young people or to continue as a lawmaker because of potential health issues that may arise as you continue to get older. And the same thing when you are a young person, for example. A young person in their 30s could be seen as reckless by older generations. These things aren't necessarily true always, but among most people, generally everyone can say those are two things that do contribute to how politics are run, not just in the United States, but across the world, matter of fact. President Joe Biden has even joked about his age and doesn't really seem to mind it really, and brushes off the criticism as simply just that, criticism. It is yet to be seen what will happen in the next presidential election, and we will also see if age will really play a factor if President Joe Biden may be reelected in the next election. That will be all for today's podcast recording, but if you didn't already, follow the Red News official podcast on such platforms including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and other such platforms where you can listen to the Red News official podcast. You can also show your support on Patreon as well. For more Red News, make sure to go to the Red News official website where you can read up on news articles, and also make sure to follow Red News on different social media platforms, which the links to those are provided on the website. Thank you very much for listening to the Red News official podcast. I am your host, Grant Johnson from Red News, and I will catch you in the next one.